There is a legend that at the height of the space race in the 1960s, NASA scientists realized that pens could not function in space because they need gravity. They had to figure out another way for the astronauts to write things down, or up, if you see what I mean. So they spent years and millions of taxpayer dollars to develop a pen that could work without gravity. Instead, their cunning Soviet counterparts, so the story goes, simply handed their cosmonauts pencils. This is a tale with a message of simplicity and thrift, not to mention a failure of common sense in a bureaucracy. It's a beautiful story, a widely believed story. However, it's not a true story. Originally, NASA astronauts, like their Soviet cosmonaut counterparts, used pencils. NASA went on to order 34 mechanical pencils in 1965. They paid $128.89 per pencil. When these prices became public, there was an outcry. The general public might not have known the cost of most of the technology used in the space program, but they knew how much pens cost, even those adapted to be used while wearing gloves. NASA scrambled to find something cheaper for the astronauts to use. Pencils were a bad choice anyway. The tips flaked and broke off, drifting in microgravity where they could potentially harm an astronaut or equipment. Graphite can conduct electricity, and you really don't want pieces of graphite floating onto electrical circuits. Also, pencils are flammable, a quality that NASA wanted to avoid in any onboard objects, especially after the Apollo 1 fire, in which 3 astronauts tragically died. Paul C. Fisher and his company, the Fisher Pen Company, reportedly invested $1 million to create what became commonly known as the space pen. None of this investment money came from NASA's coffers. The agency only became involved after the pen had come into existence. In 1965, Fisher patented his pen that could write upside down and in frigid or roasting conditions. It used a special gel ink that became liquid when the ball at the tip rotated against it. According to an Associated Press report from February 1968, NASA ordered 400 of Fisher's anti-gravity ballpoint pens for the Apollo program. And a year later, the Soviet Union ordered 100 pens and 1,000 ink cartridges to use on their Soyuz space missions. No more talk of dangerous pencils. The Associated Press later noted that both NASA and the Soviet Space Agency received the same 40% discount for buying their pens in bulk. So why do pencils exist when we have pens? To answer this question, maybe we first need to have a brief look at the history of writing. Scholars generally agree that the earliest form of writing appeared almost 5,500 years ago in Mesopotamia. It's thought that early writing was developed to record information, mainly things like who owns what and how much tax people have to pay. As societies got bigger, the human memory was insufficient for this task. Early pictorial signs were gradually substituted by a complex system of characters representing the sounds. The characters were inscribed originally with a stylus onto wet clay, which was then dried or baked. Better than nothing, but not very efficient. The Egyptians and Romans used metal styluses to write on papyrus or wax tablets. However, these early writing tools were not like pencils as we know today. Over the centuries, various writing materials were developed until we ended up with paper and ink. The problem has always been that there are times when you need writing that can be erased, even more so with marking, like marking positions on wood for cutting. Just think about a carpenter's work, as you can see here. We can say that the modern pencil's history began in the 16th century when large deposits of graphite were discovered in Borrowdale in the English Lake District. Initially, people believed this black carbonaceous material was a form of lead. As a result, early graphite writing instruments were called lead pencils. We still refer to the graphite as lead to this day. In earlier pencils, graphite was cut into sticks and wrapped in sheepskin or string. These were brittle and messy, and since the graphite would leave smudges. In the 17th century, the idea of encasing graphite sticks in wood emerged. Initially, the graphite rods were inserted into hollowed-out wooden dowels, forming what we would recognise as the first wooden pencils. This innovation provided a more secure and ergonomic way to hold and control the writing implement. In 1795, Nicolas Jacquant, a French army officer, discovered a method of producing higher quality graphite pencils. He mixed powdered graphite with clay and fired the mixture to create a stronger, more durable core. This method is still used today. Pencil, writing and marks were often cancelled using stale bread with the older version of graphite. Later, rubber was used to create what are called rubbers in British English or erasers in American English. That's a mistake that British people visiting the US make only once. In 1858, Hyman Lipman patented the idea of attaching the rubber eraser to the end of the pencil. This invention greatly improved the convenience and efficiency when making corrections. The Industrial Revolution of the 19th century revolutionized pencil production. Machines were developed to mass-produce pencils, making them more affordable and accessible to the general public. Companies such as Faber-Castell, Staedtler, and many others became well-known and manufacturers during this period. As we have seen, the 20th century saw the rise of mechanical pencils instead of with graphite cores. Mechanical pencils used thin leads that could be extended or retracted. These pencils eliminated a need for sharpening and allowed for more precise writing. Today, pencils continue to be widely used for writing and drawing and sketching purposes. They are also coloured ones. They remain a versatile and practical tool appreciated for their simplicity and ease of use. In the age of computers, smartphones and artificial intelligence, the pencil is as useful as ever. To find out more about the history of the humble pencil, I recommend a visit to the Derwent Pencil Museum in England's Lake District, near to where the first graphite deposits were found. A great place to visit, and you can get a souvenir from the gift shop. How about buying a pencil?
This is a very bad habit. It's not even my pencil. Well, I suppose it is now. By the way, did you know that hexagonal pencils like this were developed very early on because people realised that if the pencils were rounded, they could roll off a table or a desk, hit the floor and break the leads. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe, notifications, and share it with your friends if you haven't done so already. And a huge thank you for those many of you who have done this already. Right, that's all for today. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.